All right, guys, hope you're doing well. If you have tickers you want me to take a look at, put them in the chart or in the chat, um, and we can go over those charts. Let's take a look at the normal stuff we run through and kind of dive into what we've been looking at. So let's start with the S&P here. So I gave you guys two things last week if you watched the video. Um, First thing was the weekly chart. So when you're looking at the weekly chart, look at this. We've got high volume buying first. You can see we marked the low with this high volume here. And make sure that you're studying volume, especially in these major stocks because or indices, whatever you may be looking at. Because especially if you are someone that trades consolidation, so you trade the squeeze, it's very important to be able to decipher uh, which way we're going to break out, right? You've got the trend, you've got all these things, but volume is a very key important part. Okay, you can see here where we mark this bottom. Look at how high the volume is in this green buying volume. And then on top of that, look at back here. We had high buyer volume, but anyways, that's not what we're going over today. Same thing, you can see it here. Now look, we have we've had this really nice move up. Everyone's making money. It's pretty simple market to trade, right? We have, if you're trading the right names, we've had high volume buying all the way through the past 3 weeks. So last week, I gave you guys two things to pay attention to, and they still remain the same. First is the momentum on the weekly time frame. As long as we are continuing this trend up on the momentum, you want to continue to be bullish on the market. This is a little bit longer term signal. It will take a full week for a dark bar to print. So back in here, you can see we got a momentum shift right here. And then from there, we didn't really do anything. And you can see that's when the momentum trading was really out of the market. And you had to shift your strategy or how you're trading because just wasn't the right type of market. So we had the momentum shift here, then we traded sideways. Okay. The other thing I was telling you guys to look for that's more shorter term is these momentum moving averages, as I call them, um, the 5 and the 9. You can see we've been holding these for a long period of time. So we've been holding all the way since June. So over a full month. Well, almost a full month. We have been well, yeah, actually a little over a full month. Okay. We've been trading and holding these 5 and 9 EMAs. That just goes to show you it's a lockout rally. Okay. We had this V-shaped recovery after this sell-off, right? We go back here. It's very similar to this. So at some point, we're going to continue to hold here. Uh, After we made the new high here was December 12th, and then we eventually pulled back to the 21 EMA. Okay. And pullbacks were very shallow and far and in between. You can see here pullbacks to the 21 EMA just continued to be bought. And I think this is what we're going to be seeing the next few months uh, with the current price action that we're in. Okay. This is actually appearing to be even stronger than um, this back in here when we had this correction here. So, yeah. Um, Next thing is when you're looking here. So when we break the 9 and the 21, that's when or the 9 and the 5, you want to start getting a little more cautious on what's going on in the market. Okay. So really two simple things. It doesn't matter if you're looking at SPY or QQQ, they're both going to be the same thing. One, and so I think personally, we've got a few things we've got to get through before we're going to see any major pullback. Um, and those two things. So, first thing, just to cap off this discussion here, we're holding the 9 and the 5, okay? And we're continuing to push. And so, as long as we hold those in the short term, should be okay to continue to the upside. Longer term view to really be cautious is when we get the momentum shift on the weekly time frame, okay? As long as and this is the main signal because we can have these blimps in time where we have this pullback to the 21 and then we get immediately bought up. Okay. So we break the 9 and then we get bought up immediately. Okay. That's just going to form a daily squeeze is essentially what happens. So um, that's all that is. And so this is a little shorter term. And then the weekly is really the one you want to pay attention to because a lot of times you can see here we got momentum shift here, and that was a pretty hefty down move. Um, Momentum shift here, and then we just chopped sideways and then had the pullback. Obviously, nothing is perfect, but you can see here momentum shift, and there was the pullback. Here we were in a squeeze, so it doesn't really matter. But when you have these extended moves and we're not in a squeeze, and you have the momentum shift to the downside, this, other than the monthly, is a really great way to understand the cycles of how the market moves. Like you can see here, where we got momentum shift, and then look at the correction we had. Okay. Um, Momentum shift back here. Look at the correction we had. Okay. What's interesting is we have not had a shift in momentum to the upside on the monthly time frame. So that's interesting. I'm going to need to go back and study that because this can be provide us with a longer term view of like, okay, when's the last time I did that? Right here. Well, okay, we had a nice push up into new highs and then we kind of just died. So we that's worth taking a look at when we see a new market high and pushing and then but the momentum is not rising. So I'll get back to you on that. But there's some homework for you. But anyways, short term, weekly chart, momentums, and then 9 and 5 EMAs. Okay. Same goes for the Qs. I don't need to run through these, but I'm going to run through the Dow because I think the Dow is important. The two things that I was telling you that I think need to happen before the market really sees a pullback is the Dow needs to make all-time highs, which you can't really track it off of YM because obviously it's not tracking correctly with the contract switches. But if you look at the Dow, you can see here we are really close to making a new all-time high. We closed at 449 and the all-time high is about $3 away. So we're less than 1% away from an all-time high in the Dow. Um, with this, we have a daily squeeze and weekly squeeze just fired. So I think we may just rip through this. So I think we're going to see a nice continuation rip through here. We've been seeing some strength in XLI. We've been seeing strength in XLF, which both closing right near all-time highs, or XLF or XLY closed. Yeah, just a few cents off the highs. Same thing with XLF. So this has kind of been our priority. If you've been in the chat, we got long XLF options uh, on this day right here. It was right in this area, right about exact price was 52.74. So we entered right here and we're still in this position up about 40% or so. Looks good. Daily squeeze, you can see we went from red dot to black dot, which is a good sign. That means the move is starting to fire off. We got the weekly chart firing a weekly squeeze. So what this tells me is you can see the weekly is firing off on XLF. Okay, so and then DIA, which one of the main components is the financials, you can see is 2 dots in. We've got a daily squeeze, very similar setups. So if the Dow can really get going, we've had 2 inside days off of this gap up candle. So this is a bullish setup in it itself with the daily squeeze, red dot squeeze. So if we can get the Dow to really start to break out, I think we're probably going to see really great continuation in the financials and the Dow. Okay. And I think we might see a little bit of rotation. So we actually have caught like an early entry on this. I am looking for a spot. Okay, where can I buy the Dow? Because then if the Dow, this could be a little bit of a blow off top. We've got the recipe for it, right? You've got high volume candles. Volume is decreasing as we are trading within this range. We've got 2 inside candles of this here. Um, and you've got the 4 hour squeeze momentum already heading to the upside. But the main kicker is we have a weekly squeeze that's fired off and increasing volume, but more. And then the next piece is this is the continuation, right? You've got the weekly, which is the main setup, and then you've got the daily here where this could present continuation of the follow through of this weekly squeeze just firing. Okay. So hope that if you've been studying this stuff and understand and done the mentorships, all that should make sense. Okay. You can put questions in the chat if you have them. But yeah, so the Dow, it has been a laggard, but I think that this is one of the ones that you can have a nice trading opportunity. IWM, similar thing here. If you guys have been following um, trading with me for a while, you've seen that when we form a squeeze and we're still trending up, like for example, this NVIDIA trade that we took when we bought NVIDIA on this day right here. If you go to the 4 hour, you can see we bought NVIDIA right here and caught this move up. You can see how we formed a squeeze, but we continued to trade higher as we still maintained an uptrend while creating a consolidation pattern. So we're consolidating up, okay, is essentially, I don't really have a term for it. I really should make one. But you can see kind of that formation there. So IWM, very similar thing. And we're just riding those EMAs. And I think that if you look at the weekly chart, or sorry, not the weekly, the monthly, you can see we have monthly buy signals that started back in here. But you can see here, look at last time we had monthly buy signals, it took us to a new all-time high. This is an awkward cup and handle pattern or a massive double top. I'm going to go with a cup and handle pattern. So I am looking for, okay, can we get a trade on IWM to the upside? I think you can see here we've tested the 21 EMA or the 9 and the 5 over and over and over again. I really like this pattern, and I think as long as we hold above the daily 21 EMA, 230 will happen very cleanly. Once we get through 230, I think we're just headed for all-time highs right there. So this may be something we want to enter this week. Okay, so nice chart there. Got 245 right up there. So yeah, I think IWM, this is also has to do with the banks, right? One of the major components of uh, the Russell is regional banks. Same thing with the Dow. This is more large cap banks, financials, but the same kind of premise. These two tend to move together because they have a lot of focus in banks. So um, yeah, keep an eye on those. IWM looks good here. And then from there, uh, I'm not going to run through. Let's just quickly run through. Okay, so Tesla, I think, has a really nice looking setup here. You can see, let's delete all this. So you can see here, we've been building higher lows, but when you zoom in and really look at the chart, right, you can see we have tried to close below the 21, one, two, three, 4 times, and we have not been able to do it. That's and we've had you could call it one, two, three shakeouts, four shakeouts at this point, and we've really been holding this weekly 50 pretty strongly. So um this is within XLY, which this one needs to make a new all-time high. It had a one dot squeeze, it fired off. Okay. And I think this one looks great for upside. Let's look at something. So we're at the 786. That's a breakout level, but we already are above the 618. So that gives us a pretty solid go ahead that we're going to head back to an all-time high. This ETF needs Tesla to do that. Okay. So I think Tesla, we could see something pretty similar to this here. Um, and I think that we're going to see a pretty big breakout on Tesla. And if you're just looking for a move to 350, I think you're cutting yourself short. I think that Tesla could have a pretty healthy move to the upside in the next few months, as long as the market cooperates. So Tesla weekly chart looks great here. If it can get back above these moving averages, it's holding the 200. So that's a good sign, but I'd be looking for us to Really, the weekly chart is the main setup, and you can see we're kind of building this wedge out. And I'm willing to put money on that we are going to break out upside. Okay. Next thing is semiconductors. So the second piece, the first piece that I gave you about why I think the markets are going to not totally fall apart here is first uh the Dow I think needs to make a new high. The next piece is we have a ton of semiconductors getting ready to report earnings, and they still have about a month until they do so. So here, SMH has a daily squeeze. It's got a 4 hour squeeze. This chart looks pretty good. It's holding the 34 EMA. So I think this chart looks good for upside and continuation. One thing I'd like to see is where the 1272 is and if we've achieved it already. No, we have not. So, yeah. This kind of gives some confluence. I think that we're holding the all-time high, previous all-time high, and you can see we're holding that really well. So I think this is worth a shot going long and looking for continuation to the upside. This may be something where it trades sideways and builds out this daily squeeze a little more until the we get some of the semiconductor earnings out of the way. For example, like AMD, this one has earnings coming up couple weeks. Marvel, I think no, that one doesn't. I'd have to look, but I know AMD is coming up here soon. And then you've got Nvidia, which is coming up later in the month, end of August. Okay. So exactly a month from today. And then you've got AVGO, which is I think a little bit later than that. Hmm. Yeah, so the day after. I think personally we're going to see some strength in the markets. Okay, when semis report, they start reporting like AMD, these first couple. I think as long as those aren't terrible, that we're going to see SMH and the semiconductors rally into AVGO and NVIDIA earnings. Okay. NVIDIA just became the most valuable company not too long ago in the S&P, the leading component. So I'm thinking we're going to continue this momentum until we have the earnings report. And then from there, it's kind of a wild card. Okay. So what is this? Oh. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for here. And so that can be played through SOXL, which is the leveraged ETF. Or if you want to trade SMH, you can trade SMH as well. I think an easy line in the sand for SMH is this all-time high, 20, just use the 21 EMA, or the 4 hour 34 EMA. And then for SOXL, this is weighted differently. That's why the chart looks different. Well, also it's a leveraged ETF. But if you look at the daily here, um, momentum hasn't shifted. I'd like to see that first. I'd like to see momentum to shift on the 4 hour, and then I'd really start to get interested. Um, but we've got this daily 200, which is will act as pretty solid support. You can see here we haven't broke it in quite some time. And if we do, if we do and hold it, this should be a whole new trending move, in theory, right? Okay, last couple charts here. So Bitcoin, I think this one needs some more sideways. It might break out from here. We're already long XRP, which we're up about 50% on this. So we've got long right here. And so this has been pretty nice. I'll continue to hold this. Keep an eye on Bitcoin. It might need some more sideways. It might break out. I don't know. I'd prefer more sideways, but this was a pretty good shakeout. I think we need a little more time here. Um, and then as for other setups, if we look at T, so this one looks pretty solid here. Weekly chart. We had a nice shakeout here below all this support and got bought right back up. And yeah, pretty high volume buying candle here. And was a nice shakeout. We've got a weekly squeeze. High compression. Don't love that, but was a nice shakeout and recovery. and that's a pretty bullish candle from there. And we're holding the 21, so an entry here for a breakout into 30 and above is a low risk entry point, and I think 30 is very feasible. KR, I think you need to buy this off the weekly 9 or 9 and 5. And this one looks good for a continuation of the upside because XLP does look, it may break out one day. Who knows when? But yeah, this one looks pretty good for a breakout to the upside. BSX, this is probably my favorite weekly chart. It just had earnings. It was a beat. Uh, chart, this looks like a classic VCP pattern. You can see we're building higher lows, holding the 21. I think that this one is a great looking chart for a continuation break to 120. Um, and the 120 calls are cheap. They're like 150 bucks a contract, something like that. So they are pretty cheap. And yeah, I think we're going to see a nice continuation move off the weekly here. If we go look at the weekly, when's the last time we had a weekly signal? Right back in here. So kicked off that rally. So um, I think this one looks great as well. IYR, this is starting to buck the trend. You can see big shakeout on high volume right here. Um, Last time we had this high of volume was back right here, and you can see the continuation follow through. We had this here. You can see it was making lower highs. It's now trying to buck that trend and start making higher lows and higher highs. So that one looks great. And then TJX, this falls in line with the XLY idea, that we see continuation in this sector to a new high. Uh, TJX, this one has earnings coming up. And you can see we've held the 34 pretty well over here. We held the 21 this time, the 34 that time, the 34 that time. And then so we've always held this kind of band for since back in 2022. So I think that this one could see a run in earnings, which is the end of August. So this one looks good for continuation to the upside. You can see if we go to the daily chart, you can see we had these sell signals and then it took out this low and got bought up off the 200, got bought up off the 200. We saw a nice volume on both of these times we took out the 200. Now we're above the EMAs, which we couldn't do last time, and now we're trading above it. So as long as we hang out above this cluster of EMAs, we've got this daily squeeze. I think this one could see a nice breakout to the upside, go fill this gap and see 130 before earnings. Okay. That's my full watch list. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you guys have questions and have any charts you want me to take a look at. And then let's see here. So Walmart looks good. So this goes along with the XLP idea. So if this breaks out, um, Walmart is one of the top components in XLP. So if XLP can get going, then it should be a good move. We look at the daily. Yeah, you can see this one has kind of just been, well, you can see here, it's building higher lows over and over and over again. Um, I think that buying $100 calls for a few months out would be a good idea. And it's got earnings coming up, so maybe it will rally in earnings. We just have to see. But I think I just like KR because it's got more time until the earnings report. It's on September, so about 15 or so more days. So, yeah, Walmart looks pretty good. When it breaks 100, it should be a nice move. BA, BA looks good here, but yeah, it has earnings, so there's no reason to trade it. It looks good here. The only thing is just that always be cautious because when you get to this point, when you're this extended off the 21, usually you're going to see a snapback. Like, and usually the risk to reward isn't that great from this point. Like if you look at the weekly chart, look how far away we are from the 5 and look how far we are away from the 9 and then the 21. It's like this. And then it just makes the moves. You don't get really extended big breakouts when you're that extended from those moving averages. So just keep that in mind. But like if you were just looking for this for a quick pop, I think it looks good, but I wouldn't trade it because of earnings. Calm. I don't think there's personally, I don't think there's anything to do with this stock. Um, it's just a little, I don't know. It's too weird. I don't know what to say about it. I wouldn't trade it. I don't have a good opinion on it. Schwab. So Schwab looks good here. I'm long the banks, so I mean Schwab looks good. Um, I wouldn't be buying it up here unless you're okay with a move back to 93. Um, it's extended. The entry was back here. You can see the buy signals were back here. This one's just too extended. Um, yeah. Hims looks good. It has earnings. I think if this was a shakeout, which I think it probably is, this will end up being a really good move. Um, like I think this will break out into new highs. So I think this is worth probably trading to the upside if you can get a breakout or after earnings if it's still okay to get in. Let's see. Yeah, if it's okay after earnings, I think this is something that's worth trading because this was a good shakeout. And this company has really good earnings. Like we bought Hims right here and traded this to the upside and caught this move up. And then we bought Hims here and caught this, which was ended up being like 30%. But then luckily we can sell shares after hours. And I think we took the rest off for -5%. So, but yeah, this is a great company. You want to continue to trade it to the upside because the earnings and revenue are really solid. So, it's just a biotech stock. You know how that goes. Uh, okay. JPM. Yeah, so I'm long the banks. So yeah, I same thing. This is extended. So keep this in mind. A lot of you guys are posting charts that are extended off of these moves that you should have been in a long time ago. Like for example, like this here, this was the entry back here. XLF. That's why we're long XLF. We bought it back in here. They're like you should have been, we're up 40% now. You don't necessarily want to be buying it up here. It's a harder way to trade. So when you're buying these things, like you have to think about where you're buying these stocks. Okay, maybe it will work for a $2 pop, but you have to think in the long run, like, are you looking to just get a dollar, $2 pop, um, risk a potential gap down of the same thing if you're trading like a 30-minute chart or whatever it is, or like if you zoom out, are you looking for the potential of like 5, 6 times your risk on your trades? Because if you're just looking for these small rewards, you're gonna have a very hard time in trading, and you're ruining the asymmetry in your trading. So if you're just constantly taking profits at these small gains and looking for these smaller trades, you're losing out on the asymmetrical trades where your option contract goes a few 100%. You get buy signals back in here, Look at the 4 hour chart, you get buy signals back in here, and then this you wait for the squeeze to fire. Squeeze fires, and then look at where you're taking profit up here. So this here ends up being a 10% move, $26. What's that going to do for an options contract that's 1 month out? Okay. So you guys are looking at these charts, I would guess, probably because like you're looking at the lower time frames, like Schwab or Boeing or whatever, but like you're missing the fact of these asymmetrical returns. They like, for example, KWeb, one of the ones we took last week. This trade we got in back here because look at the chart I'm looking at. I'm looking at the weekly time frame. It took a couple weeks to play out, but it was 150% on October contracts. So, and where was my risk? My risk was simply just below the 21. If it breaks below the 21, all I'm risking is we got on that red candle right there. All I'm risking is this 63 cents and we sold it near the top, which doesn't always happen. It's nice when it does. But like I've got a 6 to 1 risk to reward, and the squeeze hasn't even fired off yet. Okay. So the further you move down in your time frames, the harder you're going to have harder time you're going to have trading. So like JPM, Schwab, all these ones, guys, we've been in banks since early last week. That you got to get like you got to be looking at these higher time frames and being prepared. Don't live off the 30-minute charts. That's where you're gonna find frustration. Like daily time frame, weekly time frame, you're gonna have a lot more success. And it shows in my stats, it shows, and I'm sure it will show in yours. Right now, you can do anything. Like a spy's going straight up. Yes, it's gapping up pretty much every day. So yeah, the um the quick trades, they work well because the market's only going up. But as soon as it stops going up, you're gonna realize it's a lot harder to do. So, um, and then you'll be losing money and then realize what I'm saying now makes sense then. Just a little rant, but hopefully that helps. So JPM, just a little like we're late. Daily squeeze, starting to fire, 4 hour squeeze. This was your entry back in here. Um, DKNG. Okay, so similar thing here. This might flush to the 21. So in my book, this is a better looking setup, but this can flush down to the 21 at any point, and you have to be ready for that. So personally, like something like this, I'd buy it off the 9 and my stop is below the 21 EMA and you let it play out, and that's what the trade would look like this right here. You can see we never really pulled back to the 21, so I'm buying it off the 9. You just have to be okay with those pullbacks. It's spot or the charts are almost always going to pull back. The or stocks are almost always going to pull back to the 5. It's almost going to touch it every day unless it's in a high momentum move for like 3 days here. So hopefully you catch it in those 3 days, or you're going to get caught in the snapback, which is more commonly going to happen. And you can see here, it's touching the 9 almost every day. So it pulls back to the 5 almost every day. It's going to pull back to the 9 a little bit less than that, and it's going to pull back to the 21 pretty often just as well. So just always keep that in mind with these charts you guys are looking at that are extended off the moving averages. You just have to know it's going to pull back to that, and that's your high probability entries when it starts to turn up off those moving averages because when you buy it up here, you're losing your edge because your edge is that if I buy it here, I don't have to risk much and it can go huge multiples of what I was risking. You lose your edge if you buy it extended off the moving averages because it's probably not going to go that much higher than that. Even if it does, it's not going to be that great of risk to reward. So hopefully this helps this rant I'm going on. Okay, Reddit. I do like Reddit. It has earnings coming up, daily squeeze. The only thing is earnings is this week. So If you want to play this with Friday expiration, look for a run into earnings. I wouldn't bet the house on it. Like I wouldn't put much money on it because um yeah, but the weekly chart looks awesome. I'm hoping that we have a good earnings report. We open up flat so I can buy this one. That's personally my idea process, thought process behind this. So we can catch another weekly squeeze like this and catch that on this name. This looks like a mini stage one base breakout, and we're trying to break out into stage two. So just wait till after earnings, but I think this looks great. XRP. So this one, we kind of went over this one already, but we bought XRP back here. And so we took off half when it made new highs. Now it looks like it's going to trade sideways for a little while. It's probably going to form another daily squeeze and then continuation move to the upside. So I would give it a week or so at least. But right now, if you're trying to trade it off this, it's too extended. Like right now, our we took half off here at around 40% gain, and our stop is at break even. So that one I wouldn't try to get long from here. And it needs more time. And then when you see Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these things starting to gear up, that's when I would look to buy it. Okay, so GDX is interesting because it's holding up a lot better than gold. Now, here's one of these concepts of where it's building lower highs and then it stops building lower highs and it starts to build higher lows. So yeah, this one looks good. I think you could see a nice move to the upside off this one. You kind of got to use I would look for a pullback because your stop needs to be this 21 or this 50 because that's the moving average that it's been respecting. So you got to use that as your risk because you can see it hasn't really respected any of these other moving averages and it's been respecting the 50. Maybe indicator is outdated, but I'm seeing buy signals on my daily. So make sure that you're paying attention to whether they are entry signals, like within the entry zone, so easy signals or not. Because I turned off the signals that are not in the entry zone on my chart. I only trade with the entry zone signals. So that's the difference. Um, And so that's why I'm saying wait for a pullback. I don't take trades outside the entry zone because the risk to reward is not worth it, in my opinion. And it also narrows down the setups that I get to focus on. So that's why it's not outdated unless you have like a little uh purple rotation symbol here. You can just update it and that you can do that instantly. But as for that, it's likely because I don't have the easy signals on, or I only have the entry signals on. Um, okay. So GDX, yep, RCAT. So this is aerospace and defense, I believe. I don't trade stocks under $20. So this one I can't give you too much on. Weekly squeeze looks good. So it could break out off of that. But yeah, weekly squeeze looks good. Entry was back in here. Daily, if you're trying to trade off the daily, it needs more time. It needs to trade sideways for longer. Um, IONQ, this one, I don't know. These stocks have been tough to trade recently, and I've kind of avoided these high ADR names, unless they have a weekly chart set up. So this one you can buy it and stop below the weekly 9. I think is probably the best way to play it because other than that, it's done nothing. Earnings is on the 6th, so we've been trading so sideways for so long that at this point, I don't think we're going to do anything before earnings. So good looking cup and handle pattern. We're building higher lows. So that part of the chart looks good. It's just let's see if this can how do like just wait till after earnings and then wait for the earnings repricing trade. So if it has a good earnings, it holds up well, it continues to print buy signals after earnings and provides a good entry, then I think it's worth trading for looking for a breakout to new highs. So this one looks good from here. So, yep. You guys have any other questions? Any other charts you want me to take a look at? Because I've covered all the requests and gone over the things I'm watching. I think most priority stuff is the Dow, semiconductors, and Tesla off the list that I'm using. So, any questions? Are we good to go? Hmm. Well, all right, guys. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you in the chat. And I hope this helped. If you're not in the Signals chat, you got a free week to join and try us out. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the trade floor.
All right, my guy.
Thank you.